Hi, I'm Kat Drew and I'm the Chief Design Officer at Design Council. Design Council is the national champion for design in the UK, and we work with all design sectors and we deliver programmes across business, education, government, public bodies and the third sector, all to help them harness the power of design for good. And in 2021, we announced our Design for Planet mission to galvanise and support the UK's 1.97 million designers and those working with them to help address the climate and biodiversity crisis. And an important part of this mission is our goal to upskill 1 million designers in green skills by 2030. And this is based on some evidence that we researched, which showed that while about 2/3 of designers are already designing for planet in some way, there is a big skills gap. 71% of designers think that the demand for green skills is going to grow, but only 43% feel that they've got the capability to meet this. And it's really likely that there's similar skills gaps all around the world. So today, I'll be sharing with you why we think skills for planet are a crucial part of ethical design, and I'll be using our recently published blueprint to show you what they are, focusing on one particular area, empowering communities. And this blueprint, which we've published in the last month, was designed with over 100, co-designed with over 100 experts and educators, and it's deliberately multidisciplinary so that designers from all different backgrounds can work together with other professions to maximise their impact on the planet and people. And we'd love you to use the Skills for Planet blueprint in your work, either as an individual designer or in your work to upskill and support others. So let's go back to design then. Everything that is not made by nature has been designed by someone, and therefore design, as we all know, holds this immense power over how the world is shaped. And although design has created life-advancing innovations for some, it has also formed part of the extractive system that has caused the climate and biodiversity breakdown. Fossil fuels still constitute about 80% of the UK's total energy. The global waste volumes are supposed to rise by 70% by 2050, and 80% of the environmental impact of a product is determined at design stage. And we know that the climate and biodiversity crisis is also a social justice issue. The richest 1% of the world's population creates twice as much carbon as the poorest 50%. So you've got 3.5 billion people living in the countries most vulnerable to climate change, facing a crisis they didn't create. And design has played a role in this, undoubtedly, but it also has a role to play in getting us out of it. And for us at Design Council, that's why Designing for Planet sits at the heart of ethical design, designing in a way that destroys the planet and leaves historically marginalised voices out of the equation is not ethical, but designing in ways that eradicate today's bad things, reducing emissions, pollution, waste and poverty, and also creating tomorrow's great things, building bold, regenerative ways of living. That for us is ethical design. And if you look back at the way that design has evolved, you can see that in the last 20 years, ethical design has always been about putting people first, moving from designs that were very much based around an individual designer's worldview and experience to those which were much more user-centered, considering the people that the design was intended for and what their experiences were. And again, this has kind of evolved out into people or justice-centered design. So really thinking about wider groups of people who might be impacted by a design, or in fact for which design could make poverty or social justice much better. And while this is a start, it doesn't go far enough. So we still need to shift from a human-centric view into a planet-centric view, a much more systemic worldview where we're placing all living things on equal parity. And at Design Council, we've been evolving our design practice from the double diamond and being very people-centered into the systemic design framework, and now into our skills for planet mindset. And really, this is what sits across the green design blueprint. And the mindset, the systemic worldview that really places all living things equal and that we need designing for or with. This mindset is borne out through kind of 6 skill areas in the blueprint, and starting at the top right of the screen, I'll work my way around. So regenerating nature is all about moving from ecologically extractive practice to deliberate regeneration of biodiversity, working with nature as a co-designer. Embedding circularity moves us from a world which sees a pool of infinite resources to use to one which sees waste as something we need to reduce and reuse, and is in support of a circular economy. Eliminating emissions means revoking high carbon materials in exchange for net zero or carbon negative ones. Empowering green communities, that we'll talk about in more detail, shows the need to redistribute power back to communities. Influencing green behaviour uses all of design's creativity to make the sustainable living an irresistible choice and really facilitate those green behaviour change that we want. And evaluating green impacts helps designers step back, look at the big picture, what they want to achieve, and setting measurable goals and measuring those, and using that data to iterate as they go. And each of these 6 areas has 3 specific skills underneath them. And I don't have time to go through all 18, but I will focus on a skill area that's most relevant to, or very relevant to, ethical design, empowering green communities, and talk about 3 specific skills within that. The skills then are gathering community insight, nurturing community and stewardship, and prioritising justice and equity. The gathering community insight is all about researching ethically with community's consent and involvement. And here the designer's role is really to facilitate and to listen to community expertise. And an excellent example in the blueprint is the Voluntary Sector Futures, a co-designed 10-year vision for the voluntary sector in Wales, which was a deeply collaborative project and spent a lot of time thinking about how to really collect insights and engage diverse voices. And this skill is really important because design too often happens at the expense of or neglect of the communities that be most affected by the design. And not only is this unethical, but it also means that the design is less likely to achieve what it needs to because it hasn't got all of these people working, supporting its delivery. Which relates to the second example and skill area, nurturing community stewardship. So this is about not just communities co-designing what is designed, but actually co-owning and co-delivering it and how it's maintained. So having involved them in the design decision-making process, the idea is to explore their capacity and their skills to be part of the legacy of that project. And this skill is demonstrated by K Squared, who collaborated to retrofit social housing at scale. And the project really nurtured community stewardship from the outset. The maintenance plan was designed in collaboration with residents, understanding what skills and competencies they might need to maintain the social housing. So providing economic opportunities, but also alleviating fuel poverty and enhancing living conditions. And finally, the third area is prioritising justice and equity. And this is about ensuring that when we're designing for planet, we're doing so in a way that is inclusive and does not even accidentally maintain systems of oppression. And access to nature is a really good example. It's a privilege that often some of us don't even realise. And that's where grassroots organisations like Flock Together come in. A birdwatching club who now serve a wider purpose to challenge underrepresentation of Black, Brown and other people of colour in the great outdoors. And it prompts us to question how we can ensure design, whether landscape or infrastructure or other, provides equal opportunities and doesn't just serve the privileged few. And so that brings us kind of almost full circle to the most important thing, that designing for planet really is about having the skills, not just to think about how we environmentally design for our planet, but also for the people too. It's about widening our frame of reference and redefining value so design benefits us all living species and people equally. And so what does this then mean for the role of the designer? There's a lot that designers have to contend with right now. Pressure to be sustainable, of course, but also to use AI and data, and it can feel really overwhelming. And for designers, there needs to be a balance between trying to master it all and not starting at all because you feel so overwhelmed. And so while designers don't have to be specialists in data or climate, they need to know who to work with, there is still some important work to do to start upskilling. And a good place to start would be the self-assessment tool at the back of the blueprint, which helps you map out where your skill set lies so you can see where you might want to be curious, start learning or explore next, or who else you might want to work with who does those expertise and skills. So just as a reminder of some of the key points, we think that skills for planet are central to ethical design because being able to design for the planet means designing for all planetary life, not just people, and certainly not just a privileged few. All of green design skills contribute to ethical design, but empowering green communities highlights this in particular, focusing on how to redistribute power and engage communities in design. We'd love you to use our Skills for Planet Blueprint in your work, either as individual designers or to develop the sector and build skills in others. And so we would encourage you to use this QR code to take you to the website link, download it. And if you do want to commit to embed it in your organisation, we would love to hear from you and include you in our million mission. And so please fill out the form at the back and we will be able to get in touch. Thank you.